my future in the service of our nation, she said in announcing her candidacy. US Vice President JD Vance said some progress was made in the second round of nuclear talks with Tehran in Geneva. However, he made it clear that US President Donald Trump has set firm red lines, and according to Vance, Iran is not yet ready to acknowledge or work through them. One of those red lines is that Iran must never obtain a nuclear weapon. Vance warned that a nuclear Iran could trigger a global arms race and pose a direct threat to the United States. Meanwhile, Iran's president earlier stated that Tehran would never abandon its peaceful nuclear program. Following talks with the United States, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated that the two countries has reached an understanding of the main guiding principles, but work still needed to be done. Meanwhile, a US official stated that Iran said it would offer detailed nuclear proposals in the next 2 weeks to close gaps in the nuclear talks. We are now going to Matthew Vadum, who is an American journalist and author, joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World.
Good to be here.
What does JD Vance's suggestion of diplomacy or another option signal about US political divisions over how to approach Iran's nuclear program?
I don't know what it signals, but I can translate what it means. It was a threat. He's saying, you have to agree to our demands or we're going to attack you. So I don't think it's a particularly nuanced thing, but in the diplomatic world, these are the kinds of things that they say. Iran is not agreeing to abandon its nuclear program, and the United States insists that it abandon its nuclear program because the Trump administration doesn't trust Iran and believes that Iran wants to build nuclear weapons to use against its enemies, such as the United States and Israel and some Islamic nations that it doesn't get along with. So they're not agreeing, and it's really not a big surprise that they haven't had any kind of a breakthrough, because I'm very cynical. I think these talks are doomed to fail.
And how fragile is this process, given the political pressure on both sides?
Well, people are very sensitive. The diplomats are very sensitive to what is going on and to signals that the other side is sending. And probably the slightest little thing could set off a disagreement and cause one or the other side to walk away from the bargaining table. So yeah, I'd say these are high stakes talks, and as such, they are quite fragile. One side could withdraw from the talks anytime it feels like it. But I get the feeling Iran won't do that, because right now Iran is being threatened by a massive, unprecedented U.S. armada off in its waters, and they're afraid of what the United States might do to them if they fail to reach a deal. Now, this doesn't mean they're going to reach a deal, but the pressure is on Iran, and I think Iran takes this very seriously.
And can reaching an agreement on high-level principles meaningfully narrow the open gaps between US and Iranian positions?
Well, the high-level principles are that Iran will not build nuclear weapons. That's the key principle here. Another thing that the United States wants is for Iran to stop killing its citizens who protest against the totalitarian government in Tehran's repressive measures, and against the regime in general. So these are things that are very important to the United States, and I think Iran knows that. But whether it's going to back down and agree to the Trump administration's demands, is far from clear, because the Iranian government is very determined, I would even say fanatical, and I have a feeling they're not going to agree to a deal.
And like you said, if this diplomacy stalls, what other options might be realistically considered, and what risks would they carry for regional stability?
Well, there could be more sanctions, but I don't know what else the U.S. could sanction, since Iran is already heavily sanctioned. There could be, they could more aggressively embargo Iranian goods, Iranian oil, but I'm not sure, these things are already subject to restrictions enforced by the United States. So I'm not sure if ramping these things up would have more of an impact. I think that really the only thing that is going to bring Iran to the bargaining table is the use of force, because that seems to be the only thing that the mullahs understand.
Thank you, Matthew. Don't go too far, as we will be joining back with you very shortly. Ukraine's lead negotiator, Rustem Umerov, and Russian representatives left a Geneva hotel